Hello all. Today in this session I am going to talk about C function, arguments and return values. So let's begin with the definition of function prototype. A function in C can be either with arguments or without arguments. These functions may or may not return values to the calling function. All C functions can be called either with arguments or without arguments in a C program. Also, they may or may not return any values. Hence, the function prototype of a function in C is as below. Function prototype, as you can see, integer heading, name of the function, then parameters or arguments are written over here. Now this integer is the return type of the function, this is the function name, these are the parameters. You may pass the parameters or you may keep it blank. Then it should not be end it should not end with semicolon over here, as it is a function prototype. Then whatever is the body of the function, the statements are to be written over here. As the return type is integer, so you have to write a return statement over here. If it is a void, if the return type is void, that means the function does not return anything to the function which is calling this particular function, so there will be no return statement. So this is a function prototype. Now as you can see over here, there are no parameters, so we have written void over here. You may pass any the parameters or arguments over here. We will see this in detail in the coming slides. Now types of functions in C. Now first is function with no argument and no return value. So when we say the very first type is a function with no argument and no return type, that means the return type will be void, and no arguments means the parenthesis will be blank, there will be nothing inside the parenthesis. So void function in this manner is the example of first type, that is a function with no argument and no return type. Now the second thing is function with arguments but no return value. As you can see over here, a function is having one argument of integer type and there is no return value, so the return type will be void. Whenever a function does not return anything, it will have the return type as void, as you can see over here. Now in the next one, function with no arguments but returns a value, means the argument list will be empty over here. As you can see, the parentheses are blank, there is nothing in the parenthesis, but it has to return something, so the return type will be integer or float or whatever type you want to return, so that will be the return type. Then in the next, the last one, function with arguments and return values, means the function, it is returning something as well as it is returning something as well as it is having some parameters. So in the declaration part we can simply write the data type, it will work. You need not specify the name of the parameter over here, it will work, or you may specify the name of the parameter, it is also okay. So these are the four types of functions in C. First is function with no argument and no return type, no return value. Then the function with some arguments and does not return anything, the function. Now the third one, the function with no arguments but it returns a value, and the last one, a function with arguments and it returns a value. Next, now function with no argument and no return value, this is the first type. That means the function has no arguments and it does not receive any data from the calling function. Similarly, when it does not return value, then the calling function does not receive any data from the called function. That means it does not receive any data in the form of parameters, and it does not return anything, that is void. When this particular function will be called in the main function, so main function is known as its calling function, and this function which is called as called function. So here is the function called in this manner. This function will be called function, and the parenthesis empty parenthesis, and the function state definition, as we have seen, the function prototype void function, and then the whatever is the statements are written over here. So these are the three things associated with the function: the declaration of the function, call of the function, and function definition. So in this manner, a function with no argument and no return value will be written. Now the next is function with arguments but no return values. Now when a function has arguments, it receives any data from the calling function, but it does not return but it returns no values. So it will have some arguments but it will not return anything, so the return type will be void, and here are the arguments. This is the function declaration. So function declaration should end with a semicolon. Now function call, simply in this manner function, and you have to pass a parameter over here. This parameter is known as actual parameter, means you are passing the actual value here. And function definition, in this manner you can write the function definition void, name of the function, the parameters, and the statements in the curly braces. Now the next one is function with no arguments but returns a values. Now when we say it has no arguments, means the parenthesis will be empty, as you can see, and it will return something, so the return type will be integer. Over here you can write float, character, or any user defined data type like struct data type can also be used over here. Now this is a function declaration. The function call, now whenever a function returns anything when it is called, now suppose this function is called in main function, so it will return a value to a main function, and when calling this function we need to assign that value inside the inside a variable of the type which is the return type of a function. So over here integer y, because int is the return type of the function, so we are taking integer y is the variable which will hold the value which will be returned by the function over here. And the function definition, as you can see, integer function, then in curly braces whatever are the statements they are written at the end. It is very important that we write a return statement, so return x, where it is returning the x from this particular function. So this is a function with no arguments but it returns a value. And the last function is function with arguments and it returns a value. Now just see here, it will have both arguments as well as the return values. So the function declaration return type will be integer, as it is returning some value, then a name of the function and the parameters. So there will be parameters. The function call integer y is equal to function x. The x is the actual parameter over here. We are passing the actual value, and as the function is returning something, so we are taking that value into y. And function definition, this is a function definition integer function integer x. While defining it, you have to write the formal parameter. This is a formal parameter and statements, and at the end there should be a return statement as the return type is integer. So we are writing return x. X is the value which will be returned from this function, and when the function is called, we are assigning that returned value into y inside the calling function, that will be suppose main function. So in this manner, this video explains you all the 4 types of functions, and in the coming video we will see programs or examples related to each of the function type in C. Thank you. If you are having any query, you can post me on the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.